I never planned on falling for him. Best friends weren't supposed to look at each other the way I caught myself looking at him that night. When the rain poured, when his hoodie clung to his skin, when his laugh softened something inside me I'd been guarding for years. I told myself it was nothing, a fleeting thought. But when his eyes met mine, warm, searching, too close, I knew everything was about to change, and nothing would ever be simple again. Summer had always belonged to us. Not just to me, not just to him. Us, me and Ryan. It was the invisible line that connected every year of our friendship, the constant thread that bound together a lifetime of small-town boredom and big dreams we were too afraid to admit. We weren't kids anymore, though. That was the difference this time. High school was over. No more teachers. No more hallways we hated. No more lockers with peeling stickers. The future stretched ahead of us like an empty road, and that should have been freeing. But it felt heavier than I expected, like the weight of choices I wasn't ready to make. Ryan didn't seem burdened by it, though he never did. He had this unshakable way of existing, like he trusted life to figure itself out for him. He walked with this effortless confidence that made strangers stop mid-step. His smile worked like a magnet. His laugh, loud, easy, unashamed, could fill a room and make everyone lean closer. And me? I'd been standing next to him for so long that sometimes I wondered if I was just a shadow, the quiet one, the one people forgot until Ryan pulled me into the light. That first week of summer, we repeated our rituals, riding our bikes down the endless country roads until the asphalt gave way to dirt, racing to the gas station, betting sodas on who'd arrive first, collapsing into the grass under the oak tree near the baseball field, staring at the sky until we forgot what time it was. But something felt different. Not with him. With me. It happened in flashes, like lightning before a storm. His hand brushing mine, when we both reached the chips. The way sweat slid down his jawline, on a hot afternoon, catching the sunlight. The lazy smirk he gave me when I lost another bet. None of this was new. I'd seen it all before. But now, God, now it landed differently. My chest tightened. My stomach twisted. My mind whispered things I wasn't ready to hear. One evening we went to the lake, just like always. The place we claimed years ago as ours. The sun was sinking, painting the water in impossible shades of orange and violet. The cicadas buzzed. The world felt suspended in time. Ryan dropped his shirt onto the sand, like it was nothing, and dove headfirst into the water. I froze. I don't know why. I'd seen him shirtless 100 times. I'd swum next to him, wrestled him in the water, laughed until we both choked. But this time, I couldn't stop staring. The curve of his shoulders, the sharp lines of muscle that hadn't been there last year, the water clinging to his skin as he surfaced. My throat went dry. "You coming in or what?" he called, shaking his head like a dog, spraying droplets everywhere. I forced a laugh, tossing my shoes aside. Yeah, just give me a second." He narrowed his eyes, like he could tell something was off. Then he grinned, playful, unbothered, scared. That word hit harder than it should have. Scared. If only he knew. I waded in, the water cool around my legs, my pulse hammering my ears. He swam closer, splashing me. We laughed like kids again, but beneath it, something pulsed, something raw and unspoken. At one point, he floated on his back, eyes closed, chest rising and falling with the rhythm of the lake. I caught myself staring, memorizing the details, the angle of his jaw, the softness, his expression when he wasn't performing for anyone. He looked peaceful, vulnerable in a way he never showed. My breath caught, and I had to look away before he opened his eyes. Later, as we lay on the dock drying off, the silence stretched between us. Normally, silence with Ryan was easy, comfortable, but tonight it carried a weight I couldn't ignore. "You're quiet," he said suddenly, turning his head toward me. I shrugged, picking at the wood, just tired. "You're never this quiet." His gaze lingered. It was sharp, searching, like he could peel back the layers I was desperately trying to hide. I forced a smirk. Guess I'm losing my touch. For a moment, he kept looking at me, his lips twitching like he wanted to say more. Then he let it drop, rolling onto his back, eyes chasing the stars. Whatever you say. I exhaled, relief and regret tangling in my chest. That night in bed, I couldn't shake it. The image of him in the water, the heat of his gaze on me, the way my heart had stuttered every time our shoulders brushed. I told myself it was just friendship, just nostalgia, just anything but what it really was. But deep down I knew something had shifted between us. Or maybe it had shifted in me, and I was terrified he'd notice. I didn't know what would happen next. I just knew one thing for certain. This summer wasn't going to be like the others. The days blurred together, but each one carried a current I couldn't ignore. Ryan had always been a constant in my life, the kind of presence you didn't have to question. He was just there, like gravity. But now, every laugh, every touch, every glance, it all felt charged. I told myself it was in my head, that maybe I was imagining things because I was afraid of losing him after summer ended. He had college lined up in another city. I didn't. I kept telling myself this was just desperation, the ache of knowing everything would change when August slipped into September. But then he'd do something small, something stupid, and it would wreck me all over again. Like that night we drove into town for burgers. His beat-up pickup rattled down Main Street. The windows rolled down, the summer air warm against my skin. The radio played some old rock song we both knew, and we sang off-key, laughing at how bad we were. At the red light, he glanced at me, still laughing, and for a second it felt like the world went quiet. His smile softened. His gaze lingered just a little too long. My throat tightened. The light turned green, and he looked away. I told myself it meant nothing. Another night, he came over late. My parents were asleep. The house swallowed in silence. We lay on the floor of my room, playing cards by flashlight, like we had when we were kids. Except now he was stretched out next to me, his arm brushing mine every time he reached for the deck. His laugh vibrated in the stillness, low and close, and my chest ached from holding everything in. "Remember when we thought we'd run away after graduation?" he asked, flicking a card at me. "Yeah," I said, smiling despite myself. We wanted to move to California and start a band. Neither of us could play an instrument. He chuckled, shaking his head. God, we were dumb. I watched him, his hair falling into his eyes, his voice softer than usual. Not dumb, just hopeful. His gaze flicked to mine, and for a heartbeat, neither of us moved. Something hovered between us, something dangerous, something real. I wanted to say it. I wanted to tell him. But the fear of shattering everything held my tongue. He looked away first, shuffling the cards. Yeah, hopeful. The word stuck in my chest like a splinter. July settled in with heat, thick enough to slow everything down. We spent afternoons in the shade, passing a bottle of soda back and forth, talking about nothing. We biked to the edge of town, pretending the cracked roads were highways to somewhere bigger. But no matter where we went, that tension followed us. One afternoon, we ended up at his place. His parents were gone for the weekend, his younger brother at a friend's. It was just us. We played video games for hours, trash-talking each other, laughing until our throats hurt. But somewhere in between the laughter and the easy comfort, I noticed the way he watched me. Not always, just in flickers, when he thought I wasn't looking. At one point, we sat side by side on the couch, shoulders pressed together, controllers in our hands. He leaned into me after winning another round, triumphant. "You're never going to beat me, man. Just admit it." "Never," I said, shoving him lightly. But my hand lingered longer than it should have. I felt the heat of his arm, the solid weight of his body, and the urge to stay there nearly consumed me. He didn't pull away. Not immediately. Just smirked, eyes flicking to mine, like he was daring me to say something. The moment shattered when his phone buzzed, and he jumped up to grab it. I exhaled, shaky, hiding it with a cough. Later that night, lying in his room, I couldn't sleep. He was sprawled on the floor in a blanket, scrolling through his phone, the glow lighting up his face. I watched him from the bed, telling myself I wasn't staring. Out of nowhere, he said, "What are you going to do when summer's over?" I froze. I don't know. Work, maybe. Figure things out. You ever think about leaving? His tone was careful, almost hesitant. All the time. Silence stretched, thick and heavy. Then he looked at me, really looked, his expression unreadable. Would you go with me? My heart slammed against my ribs. I swallowed hard. Go where? Anywhere. Doesn't matter. Just not here. The way he said it, quiet and raw, nearly broke me. I wanted to say yes. God, I wanted to scream it. But instead, I laughed nervously. You sound like you're asking me to elope. He grinned. But there was something in his eyes I couldn't name. Maybe I am. The words hit me like a punch. My stomach flipped. My throat closed. And I didn't know if he was joking or not. He turned back to his phone before I could answer, leaving me drowning in the silence he left behind. That night, I barely slept. My mind replayed it over and over. Would you go with me? Maybe I am. By August, the air carried that faint whisper of endings. The sun dipped lower each evening, the cicadas louder, the nights cooler. We tried to pretend nothing was changing, but it was everywhere, in the way he avoided talking about college, in the way I avoided talking about the future. We spent one last weekend at the lake. Just us. The same dock, the same stars, the same water we'd grown up in. But nothing felt the same. He sat next to me, knees pulled up, arms draped casually across them. Crazy, huh? He said softly. That this is our last summer like this. I nodded, unable to trust my voice. He glanced at me, eyes searching. You ever think about what comes next? I turned to him, heart racing. Every day. We held each other's gaze, the air thick, the world quiet. For a moment, it felt like he might say something, like the truth that had been simmering all summer was finally about to spill out. But he looked away, throwing a rock into the water. The splash echoed, sharp and final. And in that sound, I knew something was about to change. The last week of summer was the hardest. Every moment with Ryan felt like it carried weight, like invisible hands pushing us towards something neither of us wanted to name. We filled the days with distractions, basketball in the driveway, late-night drives, swimming at the lake. But beneath it all was that restless tension, simmering, waiting. One night, we were back at my house. My parents had gone to visit family, leaving us with the place to ourselves. We ordered pizza, sprawled across the living room floor, watching a movie we weren't really paying attention to. Halfway through, Ryan tossed a pillow at me. You're not even watching. You're zoning out. Am not, I argued, catching it. Yeah, you are. You've been doing that a lot lately. I shrugged, avoiding his eyes. Just thinking, I guess. About what? The question hung in the air, heavy. I want to tell him. About you. About this. About how every second feels like it's slipping away. Instead, I muttered, the future? Stuff. He studied me for a beat, then nodded, like he understood more than I'd said. Yeah, me too. We fell into silence. The only light came from the TV flickering across his face. I stole glances, my chest tight. His profile looked sharp in the glow, older somehow, like he wasn't the boy I'd grown up with, but someone I was only just beginning to know, and maybe to lose. The following evening, we biked to the park we used to haunt as kids. It was mostly empty now, just a few kids on the swings and a couple walking their dog. We sat on the jungle gym, legs dangling, the metal cool under our palms. Remember when we used to think this place was huge? Ryan asked, laughing softly, like it was our own kingdom. Yeah, I said, we used to fight over who was king of the slide. He grinned, and I always won. I shoved his shoulder. Only because you cheated. Cheating's still winning. He smirked, but then his expression softened. Crazy how fast it all went, huh? I didn't answer. My throat was too tight. Instead, I looked out at the fading sunset, the colors bleeding into one another like the end of something I wasn't ready for. After a while, he spoke again, quieter this time. Do you ever wish things could just stay the same? The honesty in his voice cut deep. I turned to him, and for the briefest moment, his eyes met mine with something raw, something unguarded. It was gone as quickly as it came, but I felt it all the same. Yes, I whispered, the night before he was set to leave for orientation. He came over with a bottle of soda and a restless energy I recognized too well. We ended up in my room, music playing low, the air thick with unsaid things. He paced while I sat on the bed, watching him. I don't know why I'm nervous, he admitted. I've been waiting for this all year. Because it's real now, I said. It's actually happening. He stopped pacing, leaning against the wall. Yeah. His voice dropped. And it means leaving everything behind. Not everything. I said quickly, we'll still talk. We'll visit. It's not like you're disappearing. His eyes flicked to mine, sharp and searching. But it's not the same. You know that. I looked down at my hands, fighting the urge to say more. Fighting the truth that sat like a storm in my chest. He crossed the room and sat beside me. Close. Too close. Our knees touched, and neither of us moved away. I don't know what I'm supposed to do without this, he murmured, almost to himself. Without thinking, I asked, without what? He turned, his gaze pinning me. Without you. The words knocked the air from my lungs. For a second, I thought I'd imagined it, but his eyes told me I hadn't. My heart thundered. My mouth opened, but no words came out. He exhaled, shaking his head like he regretted saying it. Forget it. I'm being dramatic. But I couldn't forget it. Later that night, after the silence had stretched too long, he suggested we go outside. We ended up lying in the grass behind my house. The sky a canvas of stars above us. He pointed at constellations, making up ridiculous names for them, just like we had when we were younger. I laughed, but underneath it all, my chest ached. When his hand brushed mine in the grass, I froze. Neither of us moved. The contact was small, almost nothing, but it burned through me like fire. I wanted to lace my fingers through his. I wanted to close the space between us, but I stayed still, too afraid. After a long moment, he pulled his hand back, folding it on his chest. My stomach twisted with the loss. The next morning was quiet. He came by early to say goodbye before leaving for orientation. We stood on the porch, the sun barely up, the air cool. He hugged me like he always did, strong and familiar. But this time, he didn't let go right away. When he finally pulled back, he looked at me, his expression unreadable, his mouth open like he was about to say something important. But then his phone buzzed, and he stepped back, shaking his head. I'll call you, okay? Yeah, I said, forcing a smile. He nodded, climbing into his truck. I watched as he drove away, the sound of the engine fading into the morning quiet. And in that moment, with the summer behind us and the future yawning ahead, I knew whatever had been building between us wasn't gone. It was only waiting. The first week after Ryan left felt endless. He called every couple days, sometimes late at night when he was too wired to sleep. His voice to the phone was a strange comfort, familiar and grounding, but it wasn't the same. Not the way it used to be. Not when he wasn't here, filling the space beside me with restless energy and crooked grins. We texted, too. Quick exchanges about his classes, about my work hours, about random memes and inside jokes. But woven into all of it was an unspoken thread. We were both dancing around something neither of us had the courage to name. One night, close to midnight, my phone lit up with his name. I answered quickly, maybe too quickly. Hey, I said, trying to sound casual. He chuckled softly. Were you asleep? No, just lying here. There was a pause, the sound of his breathing filling the line. Then I missed this. My chest tightened. Miss what? Talking like this. Just being with you. Everything here feels so fake. Like I'm pretending to be someone else. I swallowed hard. You'll get used to it. Maybe I don't want to. His voice dropped lower. I don't want to lose what we have. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The silence stretched, charged and trembling. Then I heard a muffled laugh, like he was shaking his head. Sorry, I'm being weird again. No, I whispered quickly. You're not. I wanted to tell him that I felt it too, that same ache, that same fear, but the words lodged in my throat. A week later, He came home for the weekend. The second I saw him, I noticed a change. He looked sharper somehow, more confident, like college had added some invisible layer to him. But when he smiled at me, it was the same smile I'd known all my life. We hung out like always, pizza, movies, late-night drives, but everything felt heightened, electric. Every glance, every brush of his arm against mine, every laugh that lingered too long. That Saturday, we drove out to the lake. The air was crisp, the water reflecting the orange and gold of early autumn leaves. We sat on the dock, our legs dangling over the edge, shoes nearly touching the rippling water. "Feels like forever since we've been here," Ryan said, leaning back on his hands. "Yeah," I murmured. "It does." He turned his head, eyes catching mine. The look lingered, heavy, searching. My heart hammered in my chest. Then, without warning, he nudged my shoulder with his. "You're quiet today." "Just tired." I lied. "You're lying." His smirk softened into something else. "You've been different lately." The words hit like a stone dropped in still water. I opened my mouth to deflect, but then his hand brushed against mine on the dock. Just barely, just a whisper contact, and the air between us changed. Neither of us moved away. My pulse roared in my ears. Every cell in my body screamed at me to pull back, to laugh it off, to do something to break the moment. But I didn't. I couldn't. Ryan's fingers curled slightly, grazing mine. It was the smallest movement, but it felt bold, like a door cracking open that could never be closed again. I looked at him, my throat dry. His expression was unreadable, caught somewhere between challenge and confession. And then, "Hey!" a voice called from the shore. We both jumped, tearing our hands apart. A couple walked past with their dog, waving casually. They hadn't seen anything. Not really. But my chest ached with shame, with fear, with something I didn't have a name for. Ryan cleared his throat, his gaze fixed on the water. "We should head back." I nodded, unable to speak, my whole body still trembling from the almost touch. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay awake replaying it over and over. The brush of his fingers, the heat in his eyes, the rush of panic when we were almost seen. It was nothing, just an accident. That's what I told myself. But deep down I knew it wasn't nothing. It was the beginning. The next morning, I avoided his eyes. We sat at the kitchen table, bowls of cereal between us. The hum of the refrigerator louder than either of us dared to be. Ryan scrolled absently on his phone, pretending not to notice my silence. But I could feel it, his attention always just on the edge of me. "Big plans today?" he asked finally, voice too casual. I shrugged. "Work later. That's about it." "Cool." He tapped his spoon against the bowl, then added softly, "You were quiet last night." I nearly dropped my spoon. My throat tightened, just tired. The lie tasted bitter. I didn't look at him, because I knew if I did, he'd see everything written on my face, the way my thoughts had circled endlessly around that touch, that almost confession hidden in silence. We didn't talk about it. Not then, but the tension lingered heavy and sharp. That evening, after dinner, we ended up in the living room. A movie played on the screen, something loud and action-packed, but neither of us was watching. Ryan sprawled on the couch beside me, close enough that I could feel the heat of his body. Halfway through, his arm brushed mine again. A jolt shot through me. I froze, waiting for him to pull away. He didn't. Instead, slowly, deliberately, he let his arm settle along the back of the couch, his fingers just behind my shoulder. The movie's gunfire faded into background noise. My chest was tight, my breath shallow. I turned slightly, and that was when I saw him watching me, not the screen, not anything else. Just me. The air thickened, charged. "Ryan," I whispered, warning in my voice. But he leaned in, his face so close I could feel the warmth of his breath. "Don't," he murmured. "Don't push me away right now." And before I could think, before I could stop myself, his lips brushed mine. It was brief, tentative, just the softest press, like a question. My heart lurched violently. I should have pulled back. Every rational thought screamed at me to end it, to laugh it off, to erase the moment before it could grow into something neither of us could control. But I didn't. Instead, I kissed him back. It wasn't long, just a fleeting connection of mouths, but it shattered everything. When he pulled away, his eyes searched mine with a mix of fear and longing. "I've wanted to do that for so long," he admitted in a hoarse whisper. I couldn't breathe. "Ryan, this is wrong." "Then why didn't you stop me?" The words cut straight through me. I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. Because he was right. I hadn't stopped him. I hadn't even wanted to. For a long moment, we just sat there, the movie flashing forgotten on the screen, our silence louder than anything else. Finally, I stood abruptly. "I need air." I walked aimlessly around the block, the cool night air biting at my skin. My mind spun in frantic circles. What had we done? What did it mean? And why did my chest ache with both fear and a strange, dangerous kind of joy? When I finally returned, Ryan was sitting on the porch steps, waiting. He looked up at me, guilt shadowing his face. "I'm sorry," he said quickly. "I shouldn't have." "Stop." My voice was sharper than I meant. I sank down beside him, staring at the darkened street. "Don't apologize. You don't mean it." He hesitated, then laughed bitterly. "You're right. I don't." We sat in silence, our shoulders almost touching, the weight of everything unspoken pressing down on us. At last I whispered, "If anyone found out." "They won't." His voice was steady now, firm. "No one has to know." The certainty in his tone scared me as much as it comforted me, because it meant this wasn't going away. The next day, things felt different. Charged. We still went to the motions, breakfast, errands, small talk, but underneath, something thrummed like an unspoken promise. His eyes lingered longer. His laughter came softer, more private, like every word he spoke was meant only for me. At one point, we were in the garage, rummaging for an old basketball. He reached up to a high shelf, his shirt riding up, and I caught myself staring at the exposed strip of skin. He noticed. Of course he did. When he turned, that knowing smirk spread across his face. "Caught you." Heat rushed to my cheeks. "Shut up." But instead of teasing, he stepped closer, lowering his voice. "Don't pretend you don't feel it too." The words hit like lightning. I swallowed hard, my back brushing against the cool wall behind me. He was so close, his eyes locking onto mine, daring me to deny it. I couldn't. Before I could think, his lips were on mine again, harder this time, desperate. I melted into it, my hands gripping his shirt, his fingers tangling in my hair. It was reckless, dangerous, intoxicating. And when we finally broke apart breathless, I realized something terrifying. I didn't just want him. I needed him. That night, I lay awake replaying every second, my pulse still racing. Shame twisted in my stomach. But so did something else, something far more dangerous. Hope, because now there was no going back. For 2 days after that kiss in the garage, everything felt like living on the edge of a blade. We moved carefully, as if someone was always watching. Even the smallest touch, a brush of hands when passing plates at dinner, the accidental press of knees beneath the table, burned like fire. And yet we couldn't stop. It started in small, reckless moments. Ryan would catch my gaze across the room, his lips curving into that subtle, private smile meant only for me. I'd glance away quickly, but the warmth in my chest betrayed me. Once, while we washed dishes side by side, his fingers slid over mine under the soapy water. It was just a second, but it felt like lightning sparking through every nerve in my body. Another night, while I was sprawled on the couch reading, he dropped down beside me, his shoulder pressing firmly against mine. He didn't ask permission. He didn't need to. His presence was a permission. I should have pushed him away. Every voice in my head screamed, "Don't." But I didn't. The danger made it worse. One evening, while Ryan leaned in too close to show me something on the phone, the front door opened. His mother's voice rang out cheerfully. "Boys, I brought home pizza." We sprang apart like guilty kids caught stealing candy. I could still feel the ghost of his breath on my cheek, my heart hammering so loud I was sure she'd hear it. Ryan stood quickly, stretching like nothing was wrong, while I forced a casual smile. "Hey, Mrs. Carter," I said, my voice cracking slightly. Perfect timing. We were starving. If she noticed anything, she didn't say. She bustled into the kitchen, humming, and Ryan shot me a look, half relief, half amusement. But underneath his smirk was something else. A thrill, because we'd almost been caught. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay awake staring at the ceiling, the sound of his even breathing from across the hall haunting me. I kept replaying that near miss, the way adrenaline had flooded me, not just with fear, but with something I don't want to admit, excitement. It terrified me how much I craved it. The next day, Ryan suggested a drive. No plans. Just us. "We need to get out," he said, tossing me the car keys. We ended up on the outskirts of town, parked near an empty lake. The water shimmered under the setting sun, peaceful, untouched. For the first time in days, it felt like we could breathe. We sat on the hood of the car, sipping sodas, our shoulders brushing lightly. The silence between us wasn't heavy this time. It was alive. "I hate hiding," he said finally, voice low. "You have to," I whispered. He turned his head, eyes searching mine. "But what if I don't want to?" My throat closed. The honesty in his words scared me more than the secrecy ever had. "Ryan." But before I could finish, he leaned in and kissed me again, this time unrestrained, no hesitation. His hand cupped the back of my neck, pulling me closer. I let out a soft sound against his mouth, my fingers clutching at his shirt. The lake, the world, everything vanished except him. When we finally pulled apart, our foreheads rested together, breaths mingling in the warm night air. "This isn't a mistake," he murmured, as if daring me to disagree. I wanted to. God, I wanted to. But instead, the truth tumbled out. "I don't think I can stay away from you." The ride back was quiet, but not uncomfortable. His hand brushed mine on the gear shift once, and instead of pulling away, I let it linger. But the moment we returned home, reality hit hard. His father was in the living room, watching TV. Ryan's little brother sat on the floor with a video game controller. Normal. Innocent. The kind of world we didn't belong to anymore. As we walked past, Ryan's fingers brushed against mine, so subtly no one else could notice. But to me, it felt like an explosion. I forced myself not to react, but my chest was pounding, because all I could think was, one wrong move and everything shatters. Later that night, I stood in the bathroom, gripping the sink, staring at my reflection. My face looked the same, but everything inside had changed. I touched my lips, still tingling from his kiss at the lake. What were we doing? What did this mean? Was it love? Was it lust? Was it destruction wearing the mask of both? I didn't know. All I knew was I couldn't stop, and neither could he. The real test came 2 nights later. We were in my room. The door cracked open just enough to keep suspicion away. Ryan sat on the edge of my bed, scrolling on his phone, while I worked half-heartedly on my laptop. Then it happened. His little brother knocked once and barged in without waiting. "Hey, do you guys," he froze. We weren't touching. Not really. But the space between us was too small, the atmosphere too charged. Anyone with eyes could feel it. "Do we what?" Ryan asked quickly, snapping his head up, voice forced casual. His brother narrowed his eyes slightly. Then, after a beat, he shrugged. "Never mind." He left. The door clicked shut. We sat frozen, breaths held. Finally, I exhaled. "He knows." Ryan shook his head. "No, he just suspects." But the look in his eyes said something else. He knew we couldn't keep the secret forever. That night, as I lay in bed, I realized something that chilled me. This wasn't just about stolen kisses anymore. It was about to become a choice between safety and him, and I had no idea which side I would fall on. The storm that broke us wasn't thunder in the sky. It was thunder in the walls of Ryan's house. It happened on a Friday night. His parents had gone out for dinner. His little brother at a friend's sleepover. For once, the house was ours. Empty, silent, dangerous. Ryan sat close to me on the couch, his knee brushing mine. We weren't watching the movie playing in front of us. We were watching each other, Do you ever think about what this means? I asked quietly. He tilted his head, pretending not to understand. What means? This, I said, gesturing between us. The whatever we're doing. He didn't answer. His hand simply found mine, fingers threading slowly, deliberately, like a vow he couldn't say out loud. And I let him. We kissed again. It started soft, tentative, but then his hand slipped under my jaw, pulling me closer, deeper. His heartbeat pounded against my chest like a second rhythm to my own. I lost myself in him. For a while, the world was only warmth, only the reckless slide of lips and the quiet, sharp sound of breathing we couldn't control. But then, the front door opened. Ryan, his father's voice. We sprang apart like guilty criminals, hearts leaping into our throats. Ryan's hand was still on my leg. I shoved it away so hard it almost hurt. He sat back, face pale, breathing fast. "Yeah, Dad," he called, voice cracking. Footsteps approached. Heavy, certain. His father entered the room, carrying a grocery bag. He paused when he saw us, sitting too close, the air too charged. His eyes narrowed just slightly, scanning the scene like a detective who already knew the crime. "What are you two doing?" he asked. Ryan laughed nervously. "Just movie night." The silence stretched. His father's gaze lingered a moment too long before he finally said, "Keep the volume down," and disappeared into the kitchen. But the damage was done. Ryan stared at me, jaw tight. My chest ached with the weight of what almost happened. He whispered, "We can't keep doing this." I wanted to argue, to beg, to promise I could be careful. But my throat closed around the truth, because he was right. The days after were unbearable. Ryan pulled away. Not entirely. He still smiled at me, still brushed my arm in passing. But the distance was there, deliberate. His silences were longer, his stares sharper, his laughter forced. I told myself it was better this way, safer. But every time he walked past without touching me, something inside me cracked a little more. The breaking point came a week later. We were in the garage again, cleaning up after helping his dad with tools. The space smelled of oil and dust, the air heavy with unsaid words. Finally, I couldn't hold it in. "Why are you shutting me out?" Ryan froze, back turned, his shoulders stiffened. "Because if I don't, we'll ruin everything." My chest tightened. "You think we haven't already?" He spun around, eyes blazing, pain flashing behind the anger. "Don't you get it? If anyone finds out," he stopped, fists clenched. "My dad already suspects. One wrong move, and it's over. For me, for us." I stepped closer, desperate. "So what? We just pretend it never happened?" His breath shook, his jaw worked, but no words came. Finally, he whispered, almost breaking, "Maybe that's the only way." The words hit harder than any fist. For a long, quiet moment, we just stood there, the distance between us heavier than steel. I wanted to scream. I wanted to reach for him. Instead, I whispered back, voice trembling, "Say it then. Say you don't want me." His eyes closed, pain etched deep in his face. His lips parted, but the words wouldn't come. And in his silence, I heard everything. That night, I lay awake in bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying it all. His silence, his fear, the way he almost broke when I asked. It wasn't rejection. It was something worse. It was love buried alive. The next morning, Ryan didn't meet my eyes at breakfast. He made excuses, left early, disappeared into the day like a ghost. But before he walked out, his hand brushed mine one last time. Quick, hidden, trembling, and it felt like goodbye. The silence between us didn't last. It couldn't. It was Saturday night when everything collapsed. Ryan had invited a group of friends over, loud, careless boys who filled the house with laughter and beer cans, with stories about girls they'd kissed and fights they'd won. I sat in the corner, watching him from a distance, feeling like an intruder in his life. He laughed with them. Too hard, too fake. I could see it in the way his eyes flicked toward me when he thought nobody noticed. I noticed, and it burned. Later. when the others had gone and the house had fallen quiet. I found him alone in the backyard, sitting on the porch steps. His head was tilted back, staring at the stars, jaw clenched so tight it looked painful. I stood in the doorway, heart hammering. "Ryan." He didn't look at me. "Don't." My fists curled at my sides. "Don't what? Don't talk to you? Don't care? Don't want you?" His breath caught. His shoulders stiffened. Slowly he turned to face me, his expression hard, but his eyes were glass, on the edge of breaking. "You don't understand what you're asking for," he whispered. "Yes, I do." I stepped closer, voice rising. "I'm asking for you. That's all I've ever wanted." The air between us pulsed, electric. He stood abruptly, towering over me now, his face inches from mine. "If anyone finds out, then let them," I snapped, "let the whole world know. I don't care." His jaw worked, but words failed him. The only sound was our breathing, ragged, heavy, colliding in the space between us. And then it happened. His hand gripped my shirt, yanking me forward, and his mouth crashed against mine with all the fury of every silence, every stolen glance, every night of pretending. It wasn't gentle. It was fire. A desperate, bruising kiss that tasted like fear and want all at once. I kissed him back with everything I had, my fingers digging into his hair, pulling him closer as though closeness alone could erase the danger. And then the sliding door behind us opened. "Ryan," his father's voice. Again, we froze, lips still touching, bodies still pressed together. I shoved Ryan away, but it was too late. His father stood in the doorway, shock carved deep into his face. For one suspended second, the world stopped. Then his father's voice roared through the night. "What the hell is going on here?" Ryan stumbled back, pale, trembling. "Dad." Inside. "Now." The command cracked like thunder. Ryan's eyes darted to me, wide with panic, begging me not to move, not to speak. I stood frozen, my chest heaving, shame and terror colliding in my veins. His father's gaze cut into me like a knife before he turned and stormed inside. Ryan followed, his shoulders hunched like he was walking into a storm he'd never survive. And then I was alone with the echo of his kiss still burning on my lips. I didn't see him the next day, or the day after. He avoided me. His parent avoided me. The whole house felt colder, heavier, like I'd become a shadow no one dared acknowledge. But the silence couldn't last. On the third night, my phone buzzed. One message. From Ryan. "Meet me. Midnight. The park." I went. Of course I went. He was already there, sitting on the swings, head bowed, hands gripping the chain so tightly his knuckles were white. When he saw me, his face broke. "Everything's ruined," he whispered. "No," I said, stepping closer. "Not if we—" "My dad told me if he ever sees us together again, I'm done. Kicked out. Cut off. You don't get it. He'll actually do it." I swallowed hard, throat dry. "So what are you saying?" "I'm saying we can't keep this up." His voice cracked on the last word. Pain surged through me, sharp and endless. "So that's it? We just throw it away?" He looked at me then, eyes wet, face torn apart. "Do you think this is easy for me? That I don't want you every second of every day? That I don't lie awake praying things were different?" I froze, the words sinking deep. His chest rose and fell unsteady. His hand twitched at his side, like he wanted to reach for me but couldn't. And then, finally, he broke. He stepped forward, cupped my face in both hands, and pressed his forehead against mine. Tears slid down his cheeks. "I can't lose you, but I can't lose my family either." My own tears blurred the world. "So what do we do?" He pulled me into his arms, holding me so tightly it hurt, and he whispered the only truth left between us. "I don't know." We stayed like that, tangled together in the middle of an empty park, the night heavy with silence and love and fear. It wasn't an ending. It wasn't a beginning. It was a cliff's edge, and neither of us knew if we'd fall or fly. Some things can't be undone. The kiss, the fear, the night his father found us, all became a wound neither of us could hide. For weeks, Ryan and I avoided each other, speaking only in fragments, as if silence could erase what had already burned itself into our skin. But silence never erases. It only deepens the echo. One evening, long after the house had gone quiet, he knocked on my door. No words. Just him, standing there, eyes red, hands shaking. I let him in. We sat on the floor like children, our shoulders touching the dim light, the weight of everything pressing down on us. "I don't know how to fix this," he whispered. "Maybe we don't," I said. "Maybe we just live it." For the first time, he smiled, broken, small, but real. He leaned his head against mine, and in that fragile closeness, I understood something. Love isn't always about winning or about being seen. Sometimes it's about the secret moments, the stolen breaths, the quiet proof that you matter to someone, even if the world said you shouldn't. We never spoke of forever. We didn't dare. But in that room, in that heartbeat, forever lived anyway. And when I think of him now, I don't remember the fear or the shame. I remember the way his hand found mine in the dark, and how, for a little while, it felt like the universe had chosen us after all. Now it's your turn to share with me. If you listen this far, I want to hear one word that captures how this story made you feel. Maybe confused, seen heartbroken, or exposed. Drop it in the comments, and let's see how many of us share the same emotions. And if you've ever lived through something similar, a secret love, a forbidden moment, or a choice you still carry, I invite you to tell your story below. You're not alone.